Raspadori, good run, clever cutback as well. Osimhen, still Osimhen, great desire. Kvaratskhelia!
Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. This is episode 104. We're your hosts Jake
and Matt,
here to describe all the events of matchday 16 in Serie A.
As you guys heard from our intro, our goal of the week was Kvaratskelia's easy finish, to be honest, which went in off the post, but we chose this because of the fantastic work of Victor Osimhen, who juggled the ball in the box 7 times before dragging the ball between the legs of the defender and squaring the ball to Kvara, who had an empty net to finish. Osimhen made that goal.
He became a Brazilian on the beach, bro.
Exactly.
That's it. Kvara almost missed it, it has to be said. He was lucky that it hit the right side of the post. And
you could see him like staring at it with sheer anxiety.
He froze up. A close second was Luis Muriel's goal, which was a beautifully struck strike. It doesn't look that hard to score that goal, but the technique on that shot was brilliant. To keep it low, to keep it rising, just rising upwards into the top corner.
Yeah, the technique with which he hit that with the outside of his foot from outside the box, it was the best way to describe this is, when you hit a corner and someone clears it and it falls to a madman outside the box. Yeah. That madman was Muriel, except he's a madman with a bunch of technique.
Exactly. He didn't lean back, people often lean back.
Yeah.
Another close contender, in my opinion, was Gudmundsson's goal for Genoa while they were all playing keep-ups,
Yeah, Ekuban's assist was perfect.
Just everyone juggling the ball past Juve defenders. Of course,
there was Reinders with like his trademark run down the middle. He channels some sort of inner Kaká that he has in him when he makes those kind of runs. Not much Di Gregorio could have done from close range, and how I wish Sanabria's goal wasn't offside, because that would have been the goal of the week. Ravo Shata into the top corner like that. Wow.
Absolutely sensational it was, bro.
Yeah.
But it's a shame, he was in an offside position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I believe there was an offside in the build-up. I don't think it was him directly.
Yeah. Remember, guys, to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube to stay up to date with our latest things. We've got a few cool things in the mix, guys. Stay tuned. And it does really help if you rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening and to subscribe to our YouTube, because we're a bit late on the YouTube bandwagon. So it would help if you guys could just go there and pop a follow. That would be pretty cool.
Help us out a bit.
Why not? We've also got Patreon, as you all know. Shout out to our Patreons. We've got a new one. His name, Slooge McNoodle. Thank you very much, Slooge McNoodle, for your support. I'm happy to have you to the family. Slooge has joined Jose, Lena, Andy, Alan, Ed, Luke, Mike, Matteo, Matthias, Luca, Anthony, Michael, David, Kyle, and Andrew. You are all legends. We love you all.
Yes, one day hopefully the list will be long enough whereby the intro segment needs 5 minutes by itself just to shout everyone out, because we won't stop doing that.
Yeah, which reminds me, we have opened up a shop on Patreon. The link is in our bio, and we are actually selling our posters we're selling posters basically on the art that we use on the covers of the episodes, right? Exactly. I draw those up, and we're selling them as digital art, so you can basically download them and print them. And fun fact, for our patrons, they're all free.
Exactly.
All of them. You have access to all of them. So
that's
they're
not
either
just money for us,
just €3 each. I believe it's the minimum price I put them up for. And the Patreon subscription is $3.99 a month, so you can technically subscribe for a month, download them all, and unsubscribe. And that's a bit of a loophole over there.
Help yourselves, guys.
No problem.
There were the Champions League, Europa League, and Conference League draws. Not looking so good for certain Italian teams. Yeah. I think particularly in the Champions League. Couple tough draws. So firstly, Fiorentina, just to get the Conference League out of the way, Fiorentina are through to the round of 16. They're not taking part in the round of 32 because they topped their group. So no need to cover anything over there. For the Champions League, it is Inter facing Atletico. It's Lazio facing Bayern. And Napoli facing Barcelona. Very cool and interesting stylistic battles, particularly the Inter versus Atletico, an offensive Inter side taking on a very pragmatic Atletico, who are a really tough team to break down with Diego Simeone's system. You've got Lazio, Bayern. I don't think Lazio have got much of a chance over there, considering Bayern's form and what Harry Kane's been doing there. And Napoli, Barca, I mean, maybe if this were Napoli last season, it would be more interesting, because I would say it's free-flowing football all around. But I think Barca have got a bit of an advantage over there this year, at least.
Yeah, Harry Kane's on 20 goals and 5 assists so far this season. And he's going to be playing Gila and Patrick, very soon in the Champions League. We'll see how many he can put past them over there. But I like the fact that Lazio are playing as the underdogs, and that will definitely help them, because they do have a few fighters in that team, And you never know, man. Sarri on a European night, he can cook. And in the Champions League, absolutely anything can happen. So, of course, terrible matchup for Lazio. They would have been hoping for quite literally anyone else. We'll see how they do over there. Also, Napoli and Barcelona, a nice touch with the whole Maradona backstory, of course. Yeah,
of course. When it comes to the Europa League, Atalanta have automatically gone through the round of 16 as they top their group. Roma are taking on Feyenoord, which are not an easy side, not at all. And Milan are taking on Rennes, who are also not an easy draw. But I do think that both Italian teams in these scenarios are favourites. However, when it comes to the Europa League, I'm always so wary of these teams, because it's not every day that you face high-quality teams that deem themselves underdogs coming into the European stage, and how important this European stage is to them.
Absolutely, and you look at Rennes, for example, or Rennes, as some people would prefer for them to be called. In France, they're having a bit of a dreadful season. They're not doing very well at all domestically. In fact, in 16 games, they've conceded 21 and only scored 20, and I'm not quite sure where they sit. I don't have that prepared. But in their Europa League group, they did finish second, just 1 point behind Villarreal, with 4 wins and 2 losses. So they do have a bit of firepower about them, and they are definitely motivated to do well in Europe. When it comes to Feyenoord, we know, of course, that they're a factory of talent, and right now they've got a striker called Santiago Jimenez, who's doing very well. He's on 18 goals, and we know a few of their players, of course, particularly... No, never mind. Theat's with the other guys. You remember Theat?
Yes, I remember
Theat. Theat is playing with Rennes.
He was with
Bologna.
He was with Bologna.
Imagine him on this Bologna team, by the way, bro. Man. I really liked Arthur Theat.
Oh my god, you remember? We used to call him Theate.
Oh, Theate. But yeah, it's going to be super interesting. We need to see what we're going to do because of recording, bro, because I would like to watch these games, of course. So we need to get recording out of the way as early as possible so we can sit down 9 o'clock in front of the TV watching Napoli, Barcelona.
Definitely, man. Maybe we'll use some hours of leave here and there. Who the fuck knows, man?
But yeah, good idea.
Yeah, it's important to note that when it comes to the Europa League, like I said, Atalanta automatically went through. It was literally every single British team involved in the Europa League also went through to the round of 16. So there's Rangers, who topped their group as well, Brighton, West Ham and Liverpool, and also Villarreal and Atalanta that go through to the next round. Yeah. But we're not here to fucking talk about European football.
Yeah. Even though it's very important this year because there's going to be a 5th Champions League spot added, and it's between Italy and Germany, between Serie A and the Bundesliga. And depending on which team does better in Europe, the coefficient will essentially dictate who gets that 5th spot right now. And because of last season's European run for Italian teams, you have 3 Italian teams reaching a final. They're actually ahead of the Premier League, for example, and it's not looking good for them because United actually crashed out.
Yeah, they came 4th.
Yeah, and they're not doing particularly well in Europe in general. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. It's very important for Italian teams to do well in Europe this season, guys. Yes. But we're not here, as you mentioned, to talk about that, bro. We're here to talk about our favorite league.
You killed my juicy segue into the rundown. Yeah. This is what we're here to discuss. Guys, first game we're going to be covering is Lazio 0, Inter 2. A tough match for Inter in recent history, where they lost the last 2 of these encounters, 3-1. But now Inter, basically, they have creamed absolutely everyone within that top 7, including Fiorentina. They've only drawn 1 out of those matches, which was against Juventus. Genoa 1, Juve 1. Juve have now fallen 4 points behind Inter after a disappointing result where a Chiesa penalty was cancelled out by the great Albert Gudmundsson. Milan 3, Monza 0. A new-look Milan with a 3-at-the-back formation and a debut goal for 18-year-old centre-back Simic, who came on to replace the injured Pobega, who started this game as a centre-back. Bologna 2, Roma 0. Bologna in the top 4 and very, very well deserved. What a team. Freuler and Zirkzee, 2 top performers in this match. Napoli 2, Cagliari 1. A tough game for Napoli. You'll see when we get down to the rundown, there were a lot of shifts in tactics in this game, but at the end of the day, the difference maker was Victor Osimhen. Fiorentina 1, Hellas Verona 0. It was a late goal for Beltran to give Fiorentina W, his first goal in open play in Serie A, and it did take a massive deflection. Atalanta 4, Salernitana 1. This happened just last night. Salernitana took an early lead through a Pirola header, but the second half was fucking all Atalanta. Lecce 2, Frosinone 1. Lecce have ended their streak of 4 draws to get a well-deserved victory against Frosinone. Udinese 2, Sassuolo 2. The self-destruct button was pressed, but this time by Udinese, who blew a 2-0 lead after a Pajero own goal. And Torino 1, Empoli 0. Torino edge-passed their opponents despite a disallowed Sanabria screamer, which goes to show just how they are the missionary sex position in this league.
And those of you who listen to our question episode will get that reference.
Exactly. If you don't, but stick around anyway, because we'll have another one and you can ask us questions.
Please.
Shall we start off with Lazio Inter?
Let's.
I guess that was the biggest game of this
probably,
weekend.
In theory.
As we know, Inter have struggled in the Olimpico against Lazio. They hadn't won there since 2018 in Serie A.
Yeah, a bit of a bogey team for them, right? In recent history.
These last 2 encounters resulted in back-to-back 3-1 home wins for Lazio. There was that infamous Luis Felipe, fucking Luis, man. Classic Luis. When he mounted Correa in celebration in Correa's first game for Inter against Lazio. And Correa got really mad. Luis Felipe started crying so hard that he ended up representing Al Ittihad in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, bro cried.
I felt bad for him.
It was bad. It was sad, to be honest, because it always sucks when you think someone's gonna react a certain way and they think you have a certain relationship.
And you're
someone.
homie, man.
Yeah. They were good friends. Yeah, that was. If you haven't seen that clip, do write it down. If you write down Correa, Luis Felipe cry, you will find it on Google.
Yeah. I wonder how you know that. Inter drew 0-0 at home to Sociedad midweek. They did feel some changes over there. They finished second in their group, whilst Lazio lost 2-0 away from home against Atletico, also finishing second in their group. As we all know, Inter, bit of a decimated squad at the moment. They had Alexis Sanchez out, Denzel Dumfries, Benjamin Pavard, Juan Cuadrado and Stefan Davray out injured. So their back three once again consisted of Bissek, Acerbi and Bastoni, with Darmian as the right wing back as well. To be fair, not too decimated. It is some fringe players, but some starters as well that are out injured. The biggest shock in Lazio's starting 11 was the fact that Luis Alberto started the game on the bench. After Sarri confirmed the Spaniard wasn't at 100% fitness and would be more effective off the bench in the second half when the game will be less intense.
When the game will be already over.
Why is the second half less intense? He thought they'd have
Probably
the lead by then or something?
He means like when everyone's a bit more leggy, when everyone's more tired. Look, man, Cagliari's best player is Zito Luvumbo, right?
Zito Luvumbo,
Piacere, Luvumbo Zito. He never gives him more than 30 minutes. Ranieri always brings him on for 30 minutes, the last 30 minutes of the game, and he drives everyone insane running. When everyone's tired from a whole game of running up and down and focusing, Zito comes on and just causes confusion. Sometimes these impact subs are necessary, man.
That's true. He is also miles ahead. He's Lazio's best player by a landslide.
For sure.
They also had Kamada, Rovella and Guendouzi forming their midfield three instead of Luis Alberto. Now, Lazio started the game strongly. They brought intensity to the game and they even forced Sommer into a couple of good saves, particularly on Kamada and Guendouzi in the opening moments of the match. However, Inter broke the deadlock in the 40th minute when Lautaro Martinez seized an awful back pass by Lazio's Adam Marusic. The weak back pass was intercepted by Martinez, who dribbled around Ivan Provedel and slotted the ball into the net from a tight angle. Martinez dedicated this goal to Bahia Blanca, a town in Argentina affected by a recent tragedy. I do believe that is where he is from. But yeah, nice touch, class act.
Yeah, absolutely. I must say, man, that
Adam Marusic is an idiot.
Not even. These games, man, are all about details.
Yes.
Right? And just for them, for Lazio, we've seen it all season, right? When they want to switch play, they often go back to their keeper, pass back, and the goalkeeper will play it to the other fullback, right?
Yeah.
Lautaro was in an offside position in no man's land between the defense and the goalkeeper, just waiting, lurking.
Yes.
Like that was all pre-planned, you know.
Yes, and the other players, if you look at the right-hand side, they were putting pressure on Marusic, pressing super high up the field to the point where Marusic has nowhere else to go, and Lautaro is in position waiting for that, man.
Absolutely, man. And he literally forced that mistake, and he did so well with it. When he rounded the goalkeeper, I thought he held on to it for a bit too long. I was like, they're going to block it, they're going to take it off him. But take it off from my ass, dude. He just dinked it in.
If it were 2 seasons ago, and sometimes we know how streaky he could have been, but not this season, man. Not this season. Super. He can't put a foot wrong. And even if you look at his heat map, thank you so for score, he's so involved in the midfield. You look at Thuram, he's the guy up top because obviously you could give him those long balls. Lautaro's doing so much dirty work, bro.
Absolutely.
So much dirty work. And then he's still there in the final third, often running in late, getting in at the back post, stuff like that.
He's Mr. Inter at the moment, man.
Absolutely. Captain Fantastic. Lazio entered the second half eager to equalise. Rovella he did exceptionally well to dispossess Çalhanoğlu and dribble Acerbi and Bastoni. He did so well in this scenario, Rovella, but once clean through on goal, the Italian was denied by Jan Sommer. It's always like the case when let's call them inexperienced players or young players. They do well and then they get clean through on goal and they're either like off balance or they're tired or they lack technique in the final third. Like Rovella's not a goal scorer, you know,
or they doubt themselves for that split second.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
But Lazio were doing a good job pressing the source, which is Çalhanoğlu, and this was case in point exactly what they did well in this game because Lazio they weren't bad in this game. And that was just to showcase how they were stopping Inter for, let's say, a fair share of the game. But then obviously that final product isn't there for them. And then in fact Inter doubled their lead in the 58th minute. Although Marusic intercepted a Barella initial through ball for Martinez, the ball came back to Barella, who redirected it to Marcus Thuram. And the French forward finished with a precise left-footed shot with Gila scrambling on the goal line. Lazio got pissed off. Frustration boiled over when Manuel Lazzari received a straight red card for insulting the referee, further complicating their chances, and then Mkhitaryan had 2 opportunities to make it 3, but they were both denied by great stops by Ivan Provedel.
He still drives so well, Mkhitaryan. He's like a young man charging forward. His burst of his change in pace and his ability to unlock that extra gear always catches me off guard.
He's silky smooth in that midfield. He is the right player for that role, I feel. He is very, very refined. I don't think like Bros brought in Frattesi. Now, I know Frattesi is more of a direct, let's say, Barella replacement more than anything. But he could, not easily, but he could do either. Especially with, he can score goals, Frattesi. We've seen that for Italy as well. But Mkhitaryan is the right guy for that role. His technique in this team in the middle of the park is very, very important.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Another player I was very impressed by, and this was really one of the first tests for him, Jan Bissek, man.
Yes, absolutely.
Jan Bissek, 23 years old, German international, 194 centimeters tall, centre-back, right-footed. He's a number 31 for those of you who remember the numbers and not the names. He can play football, man. He's very technically gifted. Like, he was out wide on the wing towards the end of the game when they were trying to just kill the game. And he's a retention machine, essentially.
This is only his second start of the season. He had the third most touches for Inter and a 93% pass accuracy as well. He had 6 duels won, 3 clearances, And like you said, he was getting wide very, very effectively. It's like he knows the system already.
And they were pressing him to oblivion, almost like forcing... It's like he was identified as a weak point. They were pressing him and he's so press resistant, man. Just passing his way out casually or like pulling the ball back and just passing back calmly, you know. Very, very talented player over there. I was impressed.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And speaking of press resistant, by the way, another point I wanted to make was on Çalhanoğlu. So when we talk about the top three registas in the league, right? We talk about Stanislav Lobotka, we talk about Ismail Benasser and Hakan Çalhanoğlu, right?
Yes.
Çalhanoğlu is different to those two. Çalhanoğlu isn't as press resistant. Çalhanoğlu can be dispossessed and he can be forced to play a wayward pass. What he does, though, however, is make up for it in his defensive contribution. So Çalhanoğlu and then likes to get down and dirty when it comes to a counter attack. For example, he'll slide in, he'll tackle, he can tackle like a defender.
Yeah, he even had that for Milan when he used to play as an attacking midfielder and even as a left winger under Gattuso. A lot of people used to, for some reason, complain about his lack of industry, but he was always so hard-working.
Of course.
Which is one thing I actually liked about the guy. Inter now have 11 clean sheets in 16 matches, despite significant injury struggles in their defensive region. 11 clean sheets in 16 matches, man.
11 clean sheets in 16 matches, man. That's honestly crazy, to be honest. I don't know, man. When I saw this game, it was like another win for them, you know? Like what's it gonna take for these guys to drop points?
They're essentially mirroring Lazio's start to this season. So like I said earlier, they've played all the top 7 teams. I say all the top 7 teams, they are part of the top 7 teams, but they also played Fiorentina, right? So they played the other top 7 excluding Inter. Brother, they beat all of them except for Juve, who they drew to.
Yeah.
They beat all of them.
Yeah.
Including 4-0 against Fiorentina, 5-1 against Milan. They killed Napoli 3-0. Bro, they're probably going to reach 50 points by the 6th of January, I believe, which is the same points Napoli had last year. So if we're talking about dominance, Inter are on course.
So yes, totally agreed. However, it very much depends on what they're going to do in January, because it is clear that Inter have been prioritizing the league. Totally, like they've totally prioritized the league, resting players in the Champions League, like fielding Sanchez, Arnautovic, Frattesi, you know, all the guys who've barely been playing, Aslani, just throwing them in the Champions League games. And because of that, they actually didn't top their group when they probably should have, and they finished second. And now they're stuck with this terrible draw, right? Not totally terrible, but they have Atletico Madrid, who they do not afford to rest players against. So they need reinforcements in January, or now we can start to see perhaps a slight dip in their league form, because they need to play the lower tier sides. And as we know, the lower tier sides in Serie A can be very frustrating, you know.
Absolutely.
The likes of Frosinone, Lecce, Genoa, Sassuolo are the only team in 15th place. Lowly Sassuolo are the only team who have beaten Inter so far this season. Cagliari, exactly, you never know. Like, it's the 90th minute, what's going to happen? So Inter can still obviously lose points. However, they have Marotta as their sporting director, and the January transfer market is approaching, and I totally see them bringing in a striker and a defender. Remember the question segment, by the way, we discussed Inter potentially, like we recommended Boulaye Dia and Ngonge.
Yeah.
Apparently they've been linked to Boulaye Dia for a January move.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. So
I wonder what Boulaye Dia would think about
spotlight.
that. He is out, like he's out of that Salernitana team.
Totally, he'd take that in a heartbeat.
Lazzari has been linked with a move to Inter.
Lazzari's been fantastic this season.
He has been. Obviously, barring this red card. I mean, apparently he told, the commentator said that Lazzari told the referee where to go. So I'm sure he told him to,
you know, go and fuck himself.
Either go fuck himself or to fuck off or go do something.
Let's leave it up to the imagination. Of course, the Italian language is a lot more colorful than the English language when it comes to cooking up insults.
I just have a few more points I want to make because Inter very good is getting exhausting as a conversation.
Inter good. It's an episode, bro. Inter are good.
Inter have a new deadly duo up front, right? Lautaro is on 15 goals in 16 matches. Thuram, 7 goals and 6 assists in his debut season. Now, do you know when Thuram has scored? He scored against Fiorentina. He scored against Milan. He scored against Roma. He scored against Napoli. And he scored against Lazio.
Big game player.
Let me repeat that. Fiorentina, Milan, Roma, Napoli, Lazio.
Yeah.
Those are 5 of the teams he scored against.
That's
he has
crazy.
7 goals and 6 assists.
That's crazy.
Debut season in Serie A.
Probably the signing of the season. Definitely the signing of the season.
Definitely.
In Italy, at least.
Yeah.
Again, you don't do that in your first season.
No.
You don't show up on those stages and just knock them in like that, like you've been playing there for so long. Like, honestly, man, I don't even know what to think about this guy. Like, he just came and he's so inspired. I mean, partnering up with Lautaro Martinez up front and totally working and adapting to the system and being so open to it has helped him thrive completely. Like, he's playing selflessly as well. He's willing to pass. He seems to have no ego on him. Like, he doesn't mind.
Always smiling. He's
always smiling. If he scores, if he assists, he doesn't mind. Like, and he must be an actual gem and a joy to play with, honestly.
Yeah, so close. He was so close.
So close to joining Milan. I remember what you said if you joined.
I said I'd cancel the podcast. And now not only have I not cancelled the podcast, now he scored 7 goals, including a 5-1 thrashing, cunting, I even say, of Milan, and I still haven't quit the podcast, so that shows.
And here you are praising
my industry.
Horrible.
Just a quick note about Lazio. Yes, they have struggled significantly in the attacking region and the defensive region, so they've pretty much struggled everywhere. They've only scored 16 goals this season in 16 matches and they've conceded 18. They're struggling. They're down in 11th fucking place now. I don't think they had a bad performance in this game. Straight up. I really don't think they were bad. I think they brought it to Inter. I think they were courageous. I think they were organized. Would I go so far as to say they'll leave the stadium with their head held high, considering their recent successful history in the stadium against Inter? I'd say no, but they put on a good performance. They weren't bad.
They were alright, but they never really. I mean, they had a good start, but once Inter scored that goal, it seemed pretty much over for them, in my opinion. Granted, okay, there was that the Rovella chance. It's true. But I just feel like they lack a bit of bite, man. And I don't know if it's because maybe starting with Immobile, maybe he's a little bit...
This is Italy's Immobile. This is Italy's Immobile that's playing, not Lazio's Immobile.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
yes. I thought you meant domestically. Yes, totally, bro. This was Italy's Immobile, and this season it has been Italy's Immobile. Bar maybe
soft
that
and
game,
invisible.
Bar that game in the Champions League where he came on and totally changed things around, scoring 2 goals. I think at this point in his career, Ciro Immobile is better coming off the bench.
I think so.
And he's so inspired coming off the bench. You have the whole stadium honoring their top scorer, Ciro. You know, he comes on. You know, start Castellanos, you can do a lot more running, who's a lot more hungry.
Yeah.
And then bring on Ciro if you need that experience at the end when everyone's kind of tired and where he can play on at the same level as his opponents. Because starting him from the get-go, I don't know, he seems one step behind constantly.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
And with all due respect, because he's an absolute legend for Lazio, of course.
Obviously. I mean, but we're here to discuss what's going on right now, no? I think Lazio's strong point, dare I say, I think their midfield had a good game. I think Rovella was good. I think Guendouzi did a lot of work. I think Guendouzi is very, very important when it comes to getting down and dirty and getting your hands all over these motherfuckers. I think that's where he's good. Kamada had a better performance than usual, but I don't want to praise him too much because he still has a lot to prove in that sense.
One of the things I enjoyed the most was Zaccagni looked like he took a knock, right, when he was coming off.
Yeah.
Because he being Sarri, switched to a 4-4-2 after taking out Zaccagni and played Guendouzi out wide. So, like, I was a bit confused by it. You know, you have Zaccagni, you take him out, and then you put Guendouzi out wide. But yes, I assume he had taken a knock.
Yeah. Inter, as you all know, first place, 4 points ahead of Juve. And is that 9 points ahead of Milan? Yes, that is 9 points ahead of Milan. Apologies for that. Lazio in 11th on 21 points, tied with Monza.
Yeah, so we can probably discuss Genoa-Juve now. Genoa actually held Juve at home. Juve took the lead with a penalty converted by Chiesa in the first half. However, in the second half, they brought on Ekuban. Genoa brought on Ekuban, and he immediately had an impact, scoring the equalizer earlier on in the second half, while they were just knocking the ball around, juggling the ball past the Juventus defenders, and eventually slotted in home.
Did you say Ekuban scored?
No, Goodmanson scored. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ekuban was brought on and forced the goal for Genoa. The game seemed initially in Juve's control. Juve, of course, were missing Rabiot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a massive miss for them. Yes. Apart from obviously Pogba and Fagioli, who have vanished into thin air. While Genoa, on the other hand, were missing Retegui, who can't catch a break this season with his injuries, and Strittman. They miss Strittman's experience because he's a very useful player, of course, for them. He has a lot of Serie A experience.
Yeah.
But it started off with Juventus being in control. They had their typical defensive approach and opportunistic attacks. Genoa showed a lot of courage and resilience, forcing the equalizer and even playing on the front foot after that. Both teams lined up in a 3-5-2, with Juve controlling the tempo. Genoa focused on utilizing their flanks and maintaining a high tempo with a forward partnership of Goodmanson and Messias, of course, just trying to press them, just two mobile forwards trying to press, trying to create something. And that substitution in the second half was actually genius by Gilardino, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The problem for Juve is that they couldn't react, man. In the second half, they had an XG of 0.44.
Madonna.
0.44 with Bremer's chance at the end of the game, nearly scoring a goal with his groin right before stoppage time. And, I don't know, man. I look at Juve and I see so many misplaced passes, so many bad touches. And dare I say, bro, that Juve are Rabiot dependent this season.
Oh, you think so?
Man, honestly, I couldn't see any bite, any muscle in that midfield. Miretti came in to replace him. There was Miretti, Locatelli, and McKennie, and they got absolutely outdone by Malinovsky, Badel, and Frendrup.
I mean, I'm not gonna be that guy to say that they're dependent on one player because they drew a game after they were on the streak that they were on, which they're still on, that undefeated run. So I'm hesitant to say that was the only reason. I think that the way Genoa were set up and the way that they were pressing Juve and how organized they were, I think credit to them. I think Juve, it's more of a question. Do you remember last week we were talking about how Juve get their goals? And we're comparing them to Inter and we're saying Inter can obviously more seamlessly score goals while Juve wait for moments. Yeah. Genoa did not give Juve those moments.
Exactly,
they did not allow them those moments. Is Rabiot more of a creative that could create more of these? Yes, but with that being said, so is Chiesa. In fact, he did it in the first half. So is Vlahovic, but he's been fucking invisible. Cambiaso, by the way, wow.
He's good.
But I was watching him break into the center of the pitch with his dribbling and his runs off the ball in this game, and definitely easily their best wing back.
Yes, and in fact I highlighted him a little bit over here. Did you know that he's actually a product of Genoa's youth team? Oh wow! So this was an X game for him. Perhaps explains that little bit of an extra drive he had to shaft them, when he was at Genoa, he was actually loaned out season after season after season. He has 26 appearances for Genoa with 1 goal. He was loaned out to Albissola, Savona, Alessandria, and even Empoli. And then eventually he joined Juventus and was loaned out to Bologna, and now he's at Juventus again. He's 23 years old. He's developing very nicely, and he looks to be a good player. He even got Zambrotta comparisons, as you mentioned a few episodes ago. That's pretty cool. Yes, bro. A few things we can mention about this game is Goodmanson at one. Okay, Goodmanson scored his 6th goal of the season. Yeah, fantastic player, breakout player. Apparently, Roma are in talks for him. I think he's hot property right now, despite the whole controversy going on back in Iceland. I think some teams would be hesitant to actually contact him until that is settled. But right now, he can be a total bargain, man, this player. This player can be the next big thing. I swear to God. He's not that young. He's about 26 years old, if I'm not mistaken, but he's so talented. He's a one-man army.
He's honestly, when it comes to attacking midfielders in the league, that we know that attacking midfielders, that like number 10 role isn't as popular as it used to be, and you don't really find as many talents in that messy role as you used to see back in the day. Albert Goodmanson is one of the best number 10s in the league.
Yes,
honestly, because not only is he silky smooth, can dribble past a player, can hit a ball from distance, he is incredibly technical and incredibly intelligent when it comes to him dragging players away with him, making those runs off the ball, creating space for, especially when he's playing up top alongside Retegui, he really creates space for Retegui to come in from behind. The way that he can take the ball down and the way that he can control the ball, and how that he has that close ball control to attract players towards him and then unleash the perfect pass at the right time for his teammates. He's watching him is a fucking joy. It's like the ball is glued to his feet,
Absolutely, man. And he can eliminate players like this.
Yeah, and his fucking finishing as well.
Yeah, super. And he has Albert at the back of his kit, which is wicked.
Yeah.
Imagine having Albert at the back of your kit.
The controversy, obviously,
sucks.
Is a fucking massive factor. But we'll see what happens with that. If it's the case, then he might be out for a very, very fucking long time.
If it's the case, he deserves it.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, I can't believe this guy was in Serie B last year.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, he almost got a rocket off at the end of the first half. Vasquez squared it to him, and he flew in out of nowhere. Yes. And he kicked so hard, and he missed the ball. Like, I would have torn everything, bro, doing that. Everything would have fucked up. Like, he flew out of nowhere. He missed the ball ever so slightly. He would have smashed it into the back of the net, I can assure you.
Yeah.
It's interesting to note that Chiesa's on penalty duty nowadays, after Vlahovic, of course, missed a few.
Is he, or did he just win it, so he took it?
I don't know. I think Vlahovic has missed quite a few. That's safe to assume that Chiesa took this one for that reason. Maybe Vlahovic is low on confidence. Vlahovic, man, at the moment, like, he's missing chances that he's known for usually executing. You know
what I
mean? His confidence is so shot at the moment.
It's not as simple as saying like he's not fitting Allegri's system and they don't play to his strengths. He's getting the chances nowadays.
But it is true, however, that he's often isolated, and maybe in a system like Inter paired with... Imagine this guy paired with...
If it was at Inter, he'd be top scorer, man. You know what I mean?
But like this game, for example, he was taller than the entire Genoa team, except for Dragusin.
Yeah.
They're both 190 centimeters. Yet he failed to dominate and to assert himself. Like, you have, Gatti and Vlahovic are two giants that are bigger than everyone else, and they're aerial monsters, we know that. Get them the ball. Use your body. Take advantage of your opponents.
Dispossess someone in a fucking air, press high up the field. Show us something. Get yourself involved. It can't be you're invisible every single match that you play. And by the way, shout out to all the Juve fans who showed us hate on our TikTok snippet, where we said that, where I said basically that his 4 celebrations in a row for his match, for his goal against Inter, was way too cocky, especially when he's been rubbish and he only got that goal. He's like, he thought he proved the haters wrong or something. Never click on their profiles to see who the hate is coming from.
Fino
alla fine in their bio and in their descriptions.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Another funny one is I posted a snippet recently of Camarda of Milan. And the snippet starts with me saying I have a theory, and it's basically me saying that he was brought on basically to get him addicted to Milan, so he renews the contract, right? This fucking guy thinks he's so intelligent.
And Albert Einstein
with his theory over here. I'm like, I should have cropped that part.
Love it, bro. Love it. They're drawing.
Never saying I have a theory again. But shout out as well to Josip Martinez, goalkeeper of Genoa, had a brilliant game. He gifted Chiesa the ball at one point, but he made amends bravely, jumping at his feet and saving the ball over there. And then in the 89th minute, he had a miracle save on Bremer, of course, on that corner when Juve were finally going to do Juve things and score from a set piece. But he had something to say about that. 2 things. Juve should have probably had a penalty for a Bani handball.
It's a bit of a grey area when it comes to handballs when the ball strikes the body first and then hits the arm. Like there was another situation like that in Serie A this weekend, and referees often talk about it. They don't like giving those penalties, especially when they're penalties. I think he should have at least gone to VAR to have another look at it. I don't think every situation where the body strikes the arm but strikes the body first, the ball strikes the body first and then hits the arm, should instantly be depleted and not considered an offence.
I think that the referee should be able to apply his own interpretation of the rule by being called to the monitor.
Because his arm was super extended.
Exactly. When it's something as clear as that, it struck his hand clearly. Send the referee over, let him take a look quickly. You know? I don't know, man. I think that, it should have at least gone to VAR. Another one that should have definitely gone to VAR was Malinovsky's leg breaker on Yildiz.
That shouldn't have gone to VAR. That should have been a
red card. Studs up,
the force with which he went in as well, with his studs so high up, man. I think it's safe to say that Juve weren't exactly favoured in this game. And I think Genoa were slightly favoured in this game. Juve were done a bit dirty on certain
favours
occasions.
went their calls went their way. It's true. It's true. They were a bit lucky with their calls. We also got to see Eling Jr. That's not something that happens very often.
Very true.
He was brought on to play in midfield because of course, Juventus basically have Pogba and Fagioli in prison, and they have Rabiot suspended, of course, so they need midfielders, and they brought on Eling Jr. as a makeshift midfielder. Not sure how I feel about it. It would be nice to see him in his natural position because he's a super talent. One more thing I want to say about Genoa is that I love their free kick routines of playing the ball to Dragusin at the far post, because Dragusin is tall and he's very good at football as well.
It was working every single time. They were hitting the back post. It's like someone mark him for the love of God. You know what I mean?
They couldn't contain him at that far post, man.
No.
Like every time he would manage. Let's see his stats. Aerial duels won. He won 3 out of 4 aerial duels. Dragusin. Yeah, he's a beast in the air, an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Also, Messias had a bit of a knock in the 93rd minute. Poor guy was replaced by Hobbs. Let's hope it's nothing serious. And it's funny to see that when Juve are in need of a goal, they bring in Yildiz, who plays such an important role in the Turkish national team. He's brought on in the 88th minute when it's too late, you know. It's late. Bring him on earlier, man. You need a bit of you need someone to connect that midfield to the attack, and Yildiz would be perfect, man.
I think so.
A player who plays so well for his country. Give him a chance.
Yeah, why the fuck not? Why not?
Genoa are in 14th place with 16 points, while Juventus are in 2nd place with 37 points.
Milan 3, Monza 0. You guys know it as Milan Monza, we know it as the Derby di Berlusconi. Milan coming off a midweek win at St. James's Park, which was only good enough to get the Rossoneri Thursday night football.
Ooh, the hill.
The hill. Oh, Alan Shearer talking about...
must have been playing downhill in the second half, baby.
The fucking hill, my ass. The match unfolded with some significant developments, but Milan's change in formation to a 3-4-3 with a backline of Tomori, Kier, Pobega is what stole the headlines. Kier returned after 2 months out, and Pobega, is not a centre-back.
Dude, this is what I fucking... What impresses me about Pioli, man.
Give me that shit.
He doesn't care what anyone has to say, man. And sometimes it can work against him because he's criticized for being stubborn and he doesn't do what seems to be obvious. But in cases like this, man, he's stuck with his gut and it worked. Because what other coach in the world, during an injury crisis when you're missing all your centre-backs and you've got Kier, who's basically on stilts at this point, and you've got no one, it's just Kier and Tomori, half a Kier and Tomori as your centre-back. He plays 3 at the back, you know, and it fucking worked. So kudos to him. When I saw it, I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, how is this guy playing 3 at the back? 3 centre-backs, when we don't even have 3 centre-backs at the moment.
Literally.
But it worked.
Bro, even Caldara's injured. It's fucked up. But it worked, and I think volume is what's going to stop teams from scoring. So just put 3 pinheads at the back and just hope to God that nothing's going to happen.
You know?
Remember when Milan were going through that situation last season? That was the solution. It's like, with every shot teams are taking against Milan, they're scoring. So put three men behind the ball and see if they'll get a shot away. And that's what got Milan out of that situation. That's what got Milan past Spurs in the round of 16 of the Champions League. It's
Contest Spurs.
Yeah, it's what only got Milan to lose 1-0 against Inter when they had previously lost 3-0 and this and that. They lost fucking 5-2 to Sassuolo. They lost to Udinese. They lost to all these guys. That's what saved them. And maybe, who knows, this is a solution. Calabria was suspended after his red card in Milan's loss to Atalanta, which meant that Florenzi started as a right wing back. That also freaked me out because he hasn't got the legs that he has had in the past, but whatever. The scoring action began early in the 3rd minute when Reinders scored an impressive goal, maneuvering past defenders in his trademark direct run before finishing through the legs of Di Gregorio. Like I said, channeled his inner Kaká. Obviously, exaggeration, funny, haha.
Kaká doesn't finish that poorly, huh?
No, but let's not focus on that. It was a toe poke through the legs of the keeper.
I think Di Gregorio was expecting a proper finish. And the fact that the finish was like directly at him actually worked to Reinders' advantage because Di Gregorio was expecting to dive there.
Yeah, I guess so. But, bro, what a goal.
What a goal by Tiani. He did very well.
Great goal by Tiani. Pobega was forced to leave the field in the 23rd minute due to a muscular problem. What? A Milan player playing as a centre-back with a muscular problem? No way! That added to Milan's season's injury tally. With Kalulu, Ciao, Caldara and Pellegrino out injured, he was replaced by 18-year-old Serbian Giancarlo Simic, who made his first ever appearance at senior level since signing for AC Milan. It wasn't long before Simic's milestone became twice as memorable as he smashed the ball into the back of the net after a square pass by Rafa Leao, making it 2-0 to Milan. He had the entire bench out of their dugout, jumping with him in celebration. What a moment. This is what football is about, no?
Absolutely, man. And these youngsters, just seeing like Camarda coming on and reacting to the fans shouting his name and Simic's face after scoring the goal. And you can tell, like, the corporations can try to take over football all they want. These teams can make all these big money signings all they want. But when you see a youth player coming up the ranks and actually making his dream come through, there's no way of stopping that, first of all. And second of all, that's what football is all about, man. And it's beautiful. Also, another year, another Simic.
Yes.
How many Simics have Milan had?
2?
Way more than 2. There was the one that basically had one good game against Inter, I believe it was, and he had an interview and he was a little bit cocky and then he was never heard of again. I think he was sold. There was a Simic from when we were young.
Well, the Simic we all know and love.
There are quite a few Simics, bro. Quite a few. Another year, another Simic.
Yep. Okafor sealed the victory at the 76th minute, capitalizing on a well-coordinated team move initiated by Reinders and just the hold-up play by Giroud over here, the technique in that pass. Beautiful. Moments later, though, Okafor suffered a thigh injury which seemed to be prompted after his unorthodox celebration, marking Milan's 29th injury this season.
Do you think it was because of the celebration, man?
I mean, this isn't... I haven't seen any articles pointing at it. It's just me and you watching some highlights saying, "Up! What happened there? Up!"
There's speculation that going down on his left knee, he went down on his left knee, right? And he got up and he kind of stumbled. Maybe he just lost balance, but he was fine up until that point. And then after that, he was fucked. So maybe he did injure himself in the celebration. But, for next time, man. For next time.
Perhaps.
He's out for a month. It's just devastating, man. This guy's barely playing and he's already on 4 goals. He's good, man. And he runs into the box late. He's a late arrival in the box, and he offers options that we don't usually have in the box. And he just creates this kind of fluidity around him.
And he also presses so fucking well.
Yeah.
He presses so well high up the field. And think about it, Milan really don't have players that press high up the field. Mm-hmm. Leao doesn't press for the life of him. Giroud tries, poor guy. Jovic
presses, to be fair, but
nowhere near as effectively,
not as intensely,
not as intensely as Okafor.
Yeah. And Chuku presses quite hard.
Chuku presses quite a lot. I think of Chuku is just, what was it, sound clip? Chuku when he's on the ball. And it's like, when the Flintstones are driving their car and they've got their feet.
I have to find this, bro. Yeah, someone on Twitter basically said this is how Chukwueze plays football.
It's so good.
That's too good.
It's so good. Shout out to Chukwueze for getting the winner against Newcastle midweek.
What a goal.
That was
a lovely, by the way, again, positive praise for Pioli, making the substitutions that eventually guaranteed the victory.
Something we're not used to as Milan fans.
We often criticize this in
game-changing substitutions by Pioli. We really haven't seen them. But in this one, he made one as well with Simic.
Yeah.
What did you make of Simic, not only for his goal, but the way he fit into particularly that three at the back formation?
I was very pleased with him and I was ready to praise him before he had even scored because he fit in like a glove, man. The guy was brought in, I believe, for €1 million as a youngster. From Stuttgart. That's a very, very expensive signing for a youngster. He's only 18 now. I don't know when he was bought. But he's been developing very nicely, clearly, under the radar, and I like the way that Milan have taken care of this player. Because he's clearly ready, man. He's ready. And this kind of thing, when you have injury crises... When you have many an injury crisis... You often find gems. You often find diamonds that come out of nowhere. For example, Malik Chow.
Exactly.
Malik Chow was brought about when Milan had no more defenders to rely on, and suddenly the new boy he was forced to play, basically.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with this guy. Now I wonder, can Milan return to a 4-2-3-1 and start with Tomori alongside Simic, for example? Is he ready for that? A back three does protect you.
Yeah,
a back three does kind of give you a bit more room for error, and they have less pressure on you. But it is interesting. This guy made himself available and he was ready and he had a fantastic game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Looked like a mature player.
And what did you think of... So, firstly, I agreed regarding Simic. I think even his confidence in carrying the ball forward and playing it out wide to Florenzi or playing it to Ruben.
And beating the press, man. They press him and he just escapes.
Brilliant. Good, very good. Bartesaghi, also good. Pellegrino, also good, just baptism of fire against fucking Inter. No?
Against Napoli.
Against Napoli, you're right.
Yes,
you're right.
Yes.
I was
to be honest, Pellegrino I haven't really seen much of.
But I feel like obviously Simic is being painted in a higher light at the moment, naturally, as he should be for his performance. But lest we forget that there are other young talents in Milan's youth system as well within that area that we could be seeing much more of in the future, particularly the versatile Bartesaghi, who can play as a left back and who could play as a left centre back as well. I am excited to see him in the future as well, but right now it's all about Simic and Milan's three at the back formation. What did you think of Milan in a 3-4-3? Because typically when you start three at the back, you're prioritizing defense. But we have seen teams like Inter, particularly under Simone Inzaghi and under Conte as well, where you have a three at the back, but you're a very fluid team who's always constantly thinking about attacking. And I do think that Milan had a tighter defense and even more fluid attacks.
What was interesting for me is that this was a 3-4-3, but it was really narrow.
Yeah.
And much of the play went down the middle.
It's true.
And I liked it a lot, man. And I really liked Leao's positioning. He was often the reference point up front. I think he was, if you look at the heat maps, his average position, he was the player that was furthest up compared to everyone else. Like even Giroud was deeper than him. I thought it was great. I don't think that this should be the way forward in every single game, but it's nice to know that Milan have this option to fall back on in certain games where, for example, either you've got the defensive crisis or you're struggling to create, or maybe the opponent plays a certain system that you wish to mirror. For example, this is a a good weapon to have in your sleeve.
Definitely, and it's the same as last season, except I don't get carried away after just one performance, but Milan really did look good, bro. They looked really good.
Milan have a good team, man. The problem is that no one's ever available. But when you see the options that Pioli's been bringing off the bench, bringing on the likes of Okafor and Chukwueze. Okafor and Chukwueze are an injection of pace and power.
Yeah.
You look at, okay, Jovic has... I've criticized Jovic aggressively on this podcast. But he's a player whose CV speaks for itself.
Yeah,
right?
He's really picked it up.
Of course, and he has, and he's clearly an intelligent player. You know, you look at Loftus-Cheek and Reinders, all right. You bring one of them out, you bring in Ismail Benasser, the AFCON Player of the Year a few years ago, a brilliant player. Recently said he wants to win the Ballon d'Or, by the way.
Recently also said that he wouldn't mind a move back to Arsenal because he loves the club.
Really? Also said he's going to AFCON. But yes, basically Milan have options. They're very unlucky with their injuries, but yes, these versatile players that Milan have, and many of these players can play in 2 or 3 positions. So of course there is room for experimentation.
Do you know what pisses me off? Pisses me off. Pisses me off.
Tell me what pisses you off.
The fact that Milan are always no, we're not a 3 at the back team. No, we're a 4-3-3. We're a 4-2-3-1. No, we shouldn't get Conte, for example. How could Milan play with a 3 at the back? Pisses me off a bit. That, I don't know. Maybe if Milan had a certain manager that could play a 3 at the back, and maybe was a very, very good manager and a very experienced manager.
Oh God, you're talking about Tony, aren't you? Antonio.
It confused me. Not just Tony, if that's what we're fucking calling Conte nowadays. Because I don't like Conte. Okay, I'm a Milan fan. Conte was at Juve. Conte was at Inter. He won the Scudetto with both of them. He is the devil. That's what he is to me.
We can appreciate that he's a great manager, but it's weird seeing him on your team because he's always been the enemy. Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But all I'm gonna say is that maybe Milan shouldn't be so quick to shut down different managers because we don't believe that we could play certain formations. Because whenever Milan played at 3 at the back, even last season, we're like, oh, look how much better Milan are.
I don't think it's about Milan not being able to play a certain formation. I think it's more about long-term planning. So you bring in Conte, okay, he might win you a league in 2 seasons. But what's he going to do to win you that league? He's going to complain a lot in the media. He's going to create unrest between the management and the upper division of the team. He's going to push for certain profiles that he wants that maybe aren't sustainable profiles in the future, maybe go against the plan that Milan have of investing young, for example. He's just going to focus on winning immediately. That's it.
Yeah.
And Milan don't necessarily need to win immediately because Milan won a Scudetto recently. They're getting top 4 consistently. They're on the right track. Now what they need is a manager to match the philosophy that they want to deploy, which is clearly a positive brand of football in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 or whatever. But I like the profiles of Thiago Motta or De Zerbi, for example. Those would be fantastic if Pioli were to actually leave.
Yeah, I agree. I love those 2 managers, and I also don't want to be that guy that says Milan should instantly only consider a 3 at the back formation after a positive performance against Monza with a 3 at the back. I'm saying don't be so quick to turn down options because players adapt and
not to mention Conte's salary would be more than any of Milan's players.
Exactly.
He would be he'd be making more than Leao.
So would De Zerbi, bro. With that being said, he's tasting fucking cash, that Premier League cash, and he's.
Is he on a crazy salary at Brighton?
I'm not sure if it's a crazy salary. I don't know Premier League manager salaries, but I know that basically him to City after Pep is essentially a done deal. Like he won't come to Milan, and absolutely. Motta. I think he's got very different plans to Milan.
Perhaps, but I think Motta's open-minded enough to look at a project and to move on from there. You see, managers, man, they often don't seem to care about their past alliances.
Hey,
it's weird. Pioli's one of them. Pioli has played for Juve and managed Inter and managed Milan. But yeah. And Fiorentina, who are massive rivals to Juve.
Exactly.
But I think that's more on the Fiorentina side than on the Juve side.
Yeah. Milan, third, pardon me, on 32 points. Monza in 10th on 21 points.
Yes, bro. We can talk about Bologna-Roma, which ended 2-0. It was a victory for Bologna at the Dallara Stadium.
Massive, bro, massive.
Beautiful Dallara Stadium. Shout out to Cesco, friend of
Yes.
the podcast, who was there.
Supporting the wrong team.
Supporting the wrong team. He was miserable. They secured the win through goals from Moro and an own goal by Christensen. They were missing key players like Lukaku and Dybala and struggled against a faster, well-organized Bologna side.
I mean, who are Roma without Lukaku and Dybala this season?
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing,
To be honest.
honestly.
A mid-table team. That's what they look like. Ravaglia was given a starting goal for Bologna. Skorupski has been fantastic, but apparently Ravaglia has shown a lot in training and has been training very well to a very high level, to the point that Motta said, you know what, man, you deserve a start. And he started him in a game against Roma. And that's
24 years
that's
old.
a cool move.
For a keeper, that's fucking young.
That's so young for a goalkeeper, it's true. One of the players of the match was Dan Ndoye, who played on the right. Salamakers played on the left. Ferguson was in the trequartista position with Zirkzee up front, while Roma started with El Shaarawy and Bellotti up front. The match started with intense physicality, many robust challenges and disputes, and Guida had a really tough time managing the emotions this game. Many yellow cards early on as well.
Yeah.
It was in the 37th minute where Dan Ndoye found Nicola Moro with a pullback pass. What would you call it? A pullback pass, kind of?
Yeah.
You run to the byline and pass the ball. Yeah, you literally pull back the ball. Nicola Moro wasn't tracked back by Pellegrini. He ran and he slotted it home to score the first goal of the game. Shortly into the second half, in the 49th minute, it was Dan Ndoye again charging. He played the ball to Ferguson. Ferguson whipped the ball in, and Dan Ndoye was in a 50-50 with Rasmus Christensen. He tried to get the ball into the back of the net. Eventually, the ball deflected off Rasmus Christensen and went into the back of the net for an own goal. And that pretty much was the game over there. Ravaglia had to make some amazing saves, brilliant saves. I had two great saves on Bellotti, and one great save on Llorente, who tried to chip him from the halfway line in the first half. Yeah. The second miss by Bellotti should have definitely done much better, though. That was a terrible miss, 1-1. And, you think back of the Bellotti that we're used to at Torino, he would have fucking executed that chance brilliantly.
Yes, sir.
One of the main talking points of the game was Mourinho bringing in Renato Sanchez in the second half in the 46th minute, and then removing him again in the 64th minute. He brought him on for 19 minutes.
Is he not injured? That's
No.
what I perceived.
He wasn't injured. In his post-match presser, he explained, "With Renato, we live in a situation of hope. We always think that space, certain responsibilities, adrenaline are the ideal way to make him make the leap. He has emotional scars. He has many fears due to past injuries. He works at a low intensity on everything we do. He improves in volume and workload, but never in intensity. In the last match against Sheriff, he had given us 60 minutes of hope, and today I thought about inserting him because the team could have benefited from his quality. But then I realized I had made a mistake, because he wasn't ready to make the leap in such an intense setting. I'm sorry. The last time I did this to a player before Renato was Matic, and I'm terribly sorry about this, but today I couldn't leave the team with a player who had become frustrated. I had to make the decision."
Mourinho, are you that kind of guy that overshares everything that's going on in your head in these scenarios? Because he's probably right. Well, he's definitely right in that sense. He knows his players best. He's a genius. He's got bags of experience. Sometimes you make a mistake. So just say, look, I made a mistake. It was the wrong tactical approach that I was going for with that change.
I mean, he did apologize.
My bad, but he put it on the player. He put it on the player by elaborating on why his mistake. It was my mistake because it's all his fault, and I shouldn't have given him that responsibility. That's what he do.
Mourinho, no?
Classic Mourinho, throwing his players under the bus and trying to be a big man about it while he's doing that. I'm sorry, and with this pre-context that Mourinho has about a player who is scared of going into 50-50s, and because of his history with injuries, you bring him on in a feisty fucking encounter away to Bologna where you're down and pretty much out. You bring him on. You want to bring on a fighter.
He's on a good salary, yeah. He should be ready for these games, bro. I know that the profile they bought, they should know what to expect when you bring in a player with such a terrible injury record.
Yeah.
But yeah, clearly he's not ready, man. He's not ready yet. One of my favorite things he said was, where is it? I want to publicly apologize to Renato. What I felt I was doing is hard for a footballer, but it was hard for me too. Yeah, all right. He also said, bro, listen to this. Listen to Mourinho's words, man. Without Dybala, there is no class. And without Romelu, we lack physicality. I knew it would be tough without them. We had great physical difficulties. Bologna have players with skill and intensity. We don't. For this reason, the game became more complicated.
Like, again, putting it on his players. You know what this was? You know what this game was to me? As a consumer, not a genius, not a tactical fucking maniac of football, but to me as an observer, someone that watches Serie A week in, week out, this was a classic traditional manager with a classically traditionally set up team versus a modern manager with a modern team. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was free-flowing, offensive, confident, attacking, technical football against cowardice and cheap tactics in order to try scrape a point out of this game. That was the difference to me.
Yeah, in theory, Roma weren't far off from getting something out of this game. You know, when you look at the statistics, they're almost perfectly even. Bologna, of course, had more possession, as seems to be the case with Roma. The XG was very similar, 0.51 for Bologna, 0.59 for Roma, and the quality of chances was the same. It's just the main difference, I think, for me was Ravaglia. Man, Ravaglia really saved Bologna and kept them in the game, because it could have totally been a more even match if it weren't for him. But yes, you are right. You know, of course.